on this lovely full moon, we have some love messages for those of you who are secure attachment individuals and polyamorous or monoamorous, but you know compersion. And so with polyamory, you're happy for your partners to have partners. And because you have secure attachment, let me specify this because this is the part that is important. You know how to regulate your nervous system when in distress. It's called you being your own safe haven. For my solo polies, I know you know all about that one. And you know how to be your own secure base, which means I go off into the adventure of this lovely plane called Earth and I have fun. And as a 5D mystic in the Enlightenment soul age group and a functional adult, I'm a pacha from the Emperor's New Groove. And when handling any person, and when I say handle, it's because when we are with those who are not pachas, what we have are those who are, I'm going to use the word teenagers, and that would be the adaptive child. And there's many different ways this goes, but all of them have attachment wounds and or emotional triggers that they're not handling and that they're projecting or they're using. And I use also the human suffering love narrative because they do experience rumination, and those triggers are how they live life. Now, they could go to good therapy, but as the good therapists who are out there point out, they point out how they need to negotiate with people to actually stay in therapy. Others point out, like our lovely Patrick Tiahan, who creates a lot of awareness around childhood trauma and how many nasty comments he gets about people who are criticizing those who go to therapy, and about the victim mindset and how, making the people who go to therapy out to be, a moral failure or something. So there's a lot of, and he doesn't do it in a way of the squirrel. No, he doesn't do it in the way of Cusco. No, he does it in a way of Pacha. And I'm allowing my regular listeners who are knowing the story. So he does it in a way of wisdom and presenting to you the data. And he's not, in fact, insulting those who do not know how to do the emotional heavy lifting. He's allowing people who are doing the emotional lifting by going to good therapy. Do not allow those who don't know that they, one, have trauma, and that they're perpetuating unresolved trauma from their own childhood, their own abuse. Don't allow them to trigger you, meaning allow yourself to work with your reparenting that you're doing. Remember who's speaking to you, and to allow yourself to know that words are just words, and you're not in trouble, and to allow that implicit memory. So he gives good guidance to the people who are serious about becoming their adults. And he gives good guidance because he knows, since he was a childhood trauma survivor, he's healed. I always say healing, but he's also a therapist, and he did good child parts work, and he still does that stuff. So when somebody is healing, they won't be using, I'm this label, you need to filter your mouth right now. Anyone who's asking you to filter your mouth like that, lo and behold, we got a Cusco, if not a squirrel from the Emperor's New Groove. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, and you'll figure out the squirrel are those who say, oh, I'm so nice, because they'll do nice things. And the minute you don't actually do how they want you to do things, they're going to justify whatever manners come up. And there's that. Cusco on the other line, he doesn't know how to admit when he can figure out, I actually could do better. And he allows himself to be basically supported by kindness and compassion by Pacha, who is an integrated brain. And they both know that they're doing a dance. Pacha knows Cusco can become a Pacha, basically. So like the Zen master in the Zen tradition story of Sadhguru. Back to our full moon, what I want to get to in our last 6 minutes here, before I forget, love. You're always in a state of love when you're good with being yourself like an adult. And so if somebody has emotional triggers, if they're upset at you, whatever is happening, you don't feel ashamed, you don't feel guilty. If they blame you, you don't point a finger back and say, let me blame you. If they fault you, you don't say, let me fault you. If they do envy, spite, revenge, you don't do squirrel behavior, you don't do Cusco behavior, you do Pacha behavior, which is when Pacha goes to shake Cusco's hand before they're saying, okay, I'll bring you home, but you're going to save my village. And he says, don't shake if you don't mean it. And he looks at Cusco, who shakes his hand, and lo and behold, he doesn't mean it. And you figure that one out as you watch it. But Pacha shook his hand, and even though he found out that Cusco was lying and was going to have him killed, he still said, I'm going to bring you back to your village because I shook your hand and I meant it. And this is why for a 5D functional adult or a mystic, and in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, 1, no saga, no drama, nor stages for twin flame or flames or oversoul, uno. 2, we don't say one day but not now, or let me not tell you that I'm polyamory because I'm going to hurt your feelings. I've had people say, I don't want to say because what do you mean? You're going to wait? What are you going to, what? Okay, we're not healed enough. No, if I think we're not healed, it would mean I think we have certain attachment wounds, maybe trauma, stuff going on. Hey, you know what? We can go to good couples therapy. And as a teenager, it's okay, what are you talking about? But then again, teenager, young adult, right? Here's where it's immaturity. So you're going to go and discover other stuff. And at the same time, if you really want to make it work, though, you're not going to say, oh, I'm not good for you. You're not good for me. You're going to say, hey, we can be good together. Because that's the part about love. We don't say, oh, I fall in and out of love. We don't have unconscious words come out of our mouth. And love is, again, a constant for a person who's in a secure attachment body. A whole self means I know healthy self-worth, which is why I don't need to do the indirect communication. It's also why I don't lie. And those who lie, they learned that from their childhood, and a lot of reasons for that. And they learned how to allow themselves to excuse their behavior like Cusco does until the end. And again, he's not a Pacha. He is not an integrated brain, because kindness and compassion involve also you being able to be a direct communicator. And those eyes from a higher social functioning brain will always be present, because we don't have our nervous system reacting and we don't have our left mode talking, because we're present as the adult who says you have thoughts and feelings. It's automatically your piece of your own, your purusha, your consciousness, your pure consciousness, unconditional love. I keep getting unconsciousness, but that's where you're not an unconsciousness unless you don't have bilateral integration, which is, though some people, they are with a right mode where an individual who's a Pacha can actually begin to pick up on those child parts, because it will, the nervous system, it's so cute the way Daniel Siegel explained it, because I now know personally when I'm in a room with people, and this is because I'm thinking of a conversation I recently had, when I'm looking in a person's eyes, I can actually be aware of if I'm with the 0-1-year-old, 3 to 7-year-old, and the 0-1 is attached panicky, 3 to 7 is shame submissive, then we got freeze of all ages, flight 11-12, and fight 14-15-16. So when I'm aware of people that are in my circle and something is happening, I now have an extra layer thanks to my courses with Daniel Siegel, and that would be disorganized attachment and DID. It would be the interpersonal neurobiology or interpersonal, I always get it confused, and then there's attachment for the lifespan. So it's straightforward for a person, and even without that, 5D mystic will know there's something going on. It's unconscious. Ascension energies, since I began my journey, I was like, yeah, there's something off. The 4D doesn't know what they're talking about. They keep talking about DNA upgrades. They keep on yelling at each other. What I had immediately noticed, so full moon, new moon, all the ascension energies, is people get really, and that's because it's their trauma charges. It's their emotions, and they don't do the emotional lifting. They do what Cusco does. And then they meet Pachas, or maybe they meet other Cuscos, independently from which the Pachas of the world, the human love narrative, aren't going to be doing anything. Like he, at the end, just allows, Cusco basically to do his thing, because if you don't know how to say the truth, you're the one who's still not in love with you. And so you don't have healthy self-worth. And a healthy self-worth person will simply know you are not going to be able to not have a heart. You're human. You're not heartless. You have a heart. And what I know, especially at this point, is you will have trauma memory lingering if you don't know how to tell me the truth to my face and have a conversation. So when there's Cuscos, the squirrels, Ismas, or Kronks, we smile, we engage, they're whole. When there's Pachas, they're whole. That's what love is. We don't fall in and out of love, and you're not ours. We're all each other's. Share the love.